You know those NASCAR weekends when the green flag hasn't even waved, nobody's made a real move on track yet, and somehow the whole garage already feels like it's seconds away from exploding? That was Las Vegas in a nutshell, and man, this one had that crackling, uneasy energy from the jump. William Byron came into the weekend carrying real confidence, real speed, and the kind of presence you expect from a former spring winner at Las Vegas Motor Speedway, and then before his race could even breathe, NASCAR dropped the hammer on the number 24 team in a way that completely changed the mood. Not because Byron spun out, not because he missed a corner, not because of some wild late-race mistake, but because pre-race inspection turned into a full-blown mess, and suddenly one of the sport's biggest names was standing in the middle of a brutal penalty storm that had fans doing double takes all morning. If you're into NASCAR 2026 chaos, garage drama, and the stories that hit before the engines even fire, go ahead and subscribe right now, because this is exactly the kind of situation that can flip an entire race weekend upside down in a heartbeat. And tell me this doesn't hook you instantly. What happens when a calm, polished contender like William Byron finally reaches that point where even he can't hide the frustration anymore? That's where this thing got really interesting, because the drama in Vegas wasn't just one team having a bad start, it was 4 Cup Series teams getting nailed before the Pennzoil 400 even began, and that's the kind of stuff that sends the entire garage into whisper mode fast. NASCAR officially announced that multiple teams failed pre-race inspection several times on Saturday at Las Vegas Motor Speedway, and when that happens, this isn't some harmless little technical note you brush off and forget about 10 minutes later. Inspection in this sport is a battlefield all by itself. Teams are constantly chasing tiny advantages, tiny edges, tiny gains that might mean a better launch, a cleaner balance, a little more speed, and NASCAR's job is to slam the brakes on anything that drifts outside the rules. So when cars keep failing, NASCAR usually wastes no time making a point, and that's exactly what happened here. The 4 teams hit with penalties were Austin Cindric's number 2 team Penske Ford, Ty Dillon's number 10 Colleague Racing Chevrolet, A.J. Allmendinger's number 16 Colleague Racing Chevrolet, and William Byron's number 24 Hendrick Motorsports Chevrolet, and right there you knew this wasn't some isolated little garage hiccup. This was a wave. This was a full weekend mood shift. Can you believe 4 teams were already digging out of a hole before race day really even got going? NASCAR's answer was simple and sharp: eject the car chiefs from the event, and that's where this gets way more serious than some casual fan might realize. A car chief isn't just a name on a roster sheet. That person matters in the prep, in the flow, in the rhythm, in the communication, in how the whole operation feels across the weekend. When NASCAR tells a team that person is out, it's like yanking a key gear out of a machine right before you're supposed to start the thing. Austin Cindric's team lost Eric Bailey, Ty Dillon's team lost Troy Langford Jr., A.J. Allmendinger's group lost Jiren Antley, and Byron's number 24 team lost Jacob Bowman. For Byron in particular, that hit landed hard because this wasn't just any random weekend. This is a driver who already knows what it feels like to win the spring race at Las Vegas. He did it in 2023, and that matters, because when a driver has that kind of track history, you roll in expecting a serious shot, not a penalty cloud hanging over your garage stall before qualifying tension even settles in. And as if losing the car chiefs wasn't enough, NASCAR added another punch by stripping those drivers of pit stall selection, and if you watch this sport every week, you know that is not some tiny housekeeping penalty. Pittsburgh Road can win or lose you chunks of track position without anybody even noticing in real time. A clean stall, the right angle, the right space to launch out, avoiding traffic, avoiding getting boxed in, all of that matters, especially in a race where strategy can swing fast. So now Byron, Cindric, Dillon, and Allmendinger weren't just dealing with the embarrassment and disruption of repeated inspection failures, they were also walking into the race without one of the subtle advantages teams fight like crazy to earn. That's brutal, isn't it? And this is where the William Byron side of the story started to really light up, because once the penalty involving the number 24 team became official, Byron made it pretty clear he wasn't in the mood to shrug it off and pretend it was no big deal. He didn't go over the top, he didn't turn it into a circus, but you could feel the frustration immediately. The number 24 car had failed pre-qualifying inspection twice, which automatically triggered the penalty, and Byron's reaction had that edge to it that every real fan recognizes. It was the kind of response that says, "Yeah, I understand NASCAR has the authority to enforce the rules, but don't expect me to be happy when my team works this hard and gets clipped before we even hit the track." Honestly, that's what made this story hit. Byron's usually measured, polished, composed, but here you could hear that this one got under his skin. And can you blame him? Weeks of prep, engineers buried in setup work, crew members grinding through every detail, everybody trying to unload with speed, and then boom, before the real fight starts, one of your key guys is gone and your strategy takes a hit. That kind of penalty doesn't just sit on paper, it lives in the whole garage. You feel it in the scramble, in the tone, in the urgency. Byron basically put it out there that it's frustrating when something like this happens before the team even gets on track, because everyone works too hard for the weekend to start with that kind of setback. That's such a relatable racing reaction, man. You don't have to be a Hendrick fan to understand it. If your team gets clipped before the opening bell, you're going to feel robbed of rhythm, and rhythm is everything in this sport. What makes this even juicier is that Byron's situation wasn't happening in a vacuum. Because 3 other teams got hit with the same kind of penalty, the conversation around the garage instantly got bigger than one driver or one organization. Now teams are talking about inspection standards, fans are arguing about whether Nascar was too harsh or exactly right, and the whole Las Vegas weekend suddenly has this extra layer of tension draped over it. That's what I love and hate about NASCAR at the same time. The race story can start hours before the race actually starts. You don't even need a restart, a bump and run, or a photo finish to create chaos. Sometimes a couple failed inspections and one angry garage are enough to change the entire vibe. And in a NASCAR 2026 season where every point, every top 5 finish, and every bit of momentum matters, that stuff carries weight. We've already seen how fans react to pressure moments all year, whether the talk shifts to Circuit of the Americas, COTA, road course drama, Joe Gibbs racing storylines, Christopher Bell, Ty Gibbs, or the latest driver reactions after a messy weekend. That's why this Las Vegas moment felt so big. It fit right into that larger season-long feeling that nobody can afford to blink, and even tiny setbacks can snowball into something much uglier. Isn't it crazy how one inspection issue can suddenly make the whole weekend feel heavier? For Byron, the biggest question became simple. Can the number 24 team overcome it? Because that's what separates contenders from just fast cars. Anybody can look strong when the weekend goes smoothly. The real test is what happens when the script gets ripped up before the show even starts. Can you regroup? Can you keep your head clear? Can you go race anyway, just like Byron insisted they would? That part actually says a lot about him. Even with the frustration, he didn't wave the white flag. He didn't act like the race was over before it began. The attitude was basically, fine, hit us with the penalty, we'll reset and go do what we came here to do. And that's the part fans should keep an eye on, because a fired-up William Byron is not exactly what the rest of the field wants to see. A frustrated contender can be dangerous in the best possible racing way. He knows the track. He knows what it takes to win there. He knows Hendrick Motorsports can unload serious speed. So now the pressure isn't just on the number 24 team to survive the setback, it's on everybody else to deal with a group that suddenly has a chip on its shoulder. You know what's wild too? This whole thing is a reminder that penalties like this aren't just about punishment, they're about momentum theft. That's the phrase that keeps sticking in my head. Momentum theft. Because before the race weekend even settles in, you've stolen comfort, routine, confidence, and maybe even a little bit of strategic control from a team that expected to compete straight up. And for Byron, that sting probably felt even sharper because this is Las Vegas, a place where he's already shown he can deliver. So when people throw around a title like William Byron snaps after brutal NASCAR 2026 suspension, the real heart of it is this. Byron himself wasn't parked, but the penalty hit his team in a way that felt massive, immediate, and personal. His car chief was ejected. His pit stall selection was gone.